Survival changes with every step upward. Along the shore of Lake Louise, elk feed where glacial water reaches the valley, while a mountain lion watches from the cover of the trees. Above them, the forest thickens into shadow. Wolves move between trunks, mule deer listen beneath the canopy, and smaller hunters disappear through roots and stone. But the trees cannot follow the mountain forever. At the timberline, forest gives way to talus and loose scree. Pikers vanish into crevices. Marmots stand guard on exposed boulders. Higher still, the broken slope becomes a cliff, where golden eagles travel on rising air, and mountain goats cross ledges scarcely wider than their hooves. Across these rocky mountain peaks, a vertical citadel rises in 5 stacked worlds. Water below, forest above it, then rubble, wall, and crown. Each level changes the temperature, the shelter, the food, and the predators capable of reaching it. One mountain goat moves through them all, climbing toward the place where concealment disappears. Speed loses its value, and survival depends on a few centimeters of stone. The water gate, where the glacier feeds the valley and the hunters follow. From a precipice above the basin, a mountain goat looks down upon a world built around water. Lake Louise lies beneath it, enclosed by forest and the immense stone walls rising toward Mount Victoria. At the head of the lake, meltwater descends from the glaciated heights as a pale, milky current. It carries rock flour, particles ground finer than sand beneath moving ice. Suspended in the water, this powdered mountain scatters light and gives Lake Louise its famous turquoise color. Mist drifts over the surface as small ripples loosen the inverted image of the glacier. Along the shoreline, cold water slides between smooth stones before withdrawing into the basin. Here, moisture supports grasses, shrubs, and forest growth that become scarce higher on the mountain. An elk lowers its head into the wet meadow. Elk are Banff's principal large herbivores, converting the vegetation of the valley floor into muscle that can sustain animals weighing hundreds of kilograms. The largest bulls may approach 450 kilograms. A mule deer feeds nearby, its broad ears turning toward sounds hidden by the fog. Neither animal is being hunted now. Yet the openness of the basin leaves few movements concealed. Above them, a mountain lion crosses a narrow limestone ledge. It stops long enough to watch the valley, its breath briefly visible in the cold air, then withdraws toward a dark cave as daylight strengthens. Far higher, the mountain goat rises. It is not a true goat, but a goat antelope built for terrain beyond the reach of most large predators. Powerful shoulders lift its body against the rock, while split hooves spread across tiny footholds. Flexible inner pads grip surfaces so steep that mountain goats can travel on slopes exceeding 60 degrees. Below, frost releases a cinquefoil leaf, one droplet at a time. Meltwater threads beneath a yellow buttercup, filling a depression no wider than a hoofprint. A caddisfly struggles against the surface of this temporary pool. To the elk, the lake is a source of life. To the caddisfly, one bead of meltwater is the entire world. And to the mountain goat, watching from the stone above, the richness of the watergate is precisely what makes it dangerous. The forest wall, where the mountain hides its hunters. From its ledge above Lake Louise, the mountain goat turns away from the wet basin and follows a band of exposed stone running parallel to the forest. The lower subalpine zone covers roughly 27% of Banff National Park. Lodgepole pine, Engelmann spruce, and subalpine fir grow densely across this elevation, their trunks creating shelter from wind, while their overlapping crowns break the landscape into shadow, mist, and narrow corridors. Cold air continues to drain from the glaciated heights. Pine trunks remain almost motionless, but their upper branches bend together, shedding beads of condensation. Beneath it, a mountain lion disappears. Its tawny body lowers into the brush until only the shoulders remain visible between trunks. Adult males can approach 90 kilograms and measure about 2.4 meters from nose to tail. Yet the cougar's greatest advantage is not its size. It is the ability to approach without being seen. Forest cover is essential to its ambush strategy, allowing it to close the distance before a deer can react. Ahead, a mule deer pulls bark from a young tree. Its ears turn independently, searching through layers of sound, the wind in the canopy, water below, and something moving softly through wet vegetation. Far above, the mountain goat pauses on the open rock. The cougar and deer have already vanished beneath the same roof of branches. From the goat's position, the forest appears continuous, but inside it, visibility may collapse within only a few meters. A grey wolf emerges through the fog near the forest edge. It moves at a steady trot, lifting its muzzle briefly into the wind before continuing uphill. Wolves commonly travel at about 8 kilometers per hour, an energy-efficient pace that allows them to search large territories without the cost of sustained running. Between the trees, its body appears in fragments, then disappears again. A heavier disturbance breaks the forest floor. A grizzly bear drives its forepaws into damp soil beside a meadow. Its front claws average about 45 millimeters and are shaped for digging, opening the ground to expose roots and other buried foods. Soil rolls behind its paws while an elk watches from the grass. Nearby, a Colombian ground squirrel rises on its hind legs, becoming a small vertical silhouette against the disturbed earth. The forest also shelters hunters measured not in hundreds of kilograms, but in centimeters. A pine marten rests beneath a limestone boulder. American martens are strongly associated with structurally complex conifer forests, where fallen logs, standing dead trees, root cavities and rock piles provide resting sites and protected hunting routes. A long-tailed weasel flashes through the wet brush nearby. Its body may measure only 33 to 46 centimeters, and more than 1/3 of that length can be its black-tipped tail. Short legs and an elongated torso allow it to follow rodents into spaces inaccessible to larger carnivores. A dwarf snow willow spreads flat across the limestone, like a forest reduced to the height of a hand. Beneath its woody branches, a wolf spider remains still under beads of condensation. One pedipalp wipes moisture from an eye, while tiny aphids climb the bark above it. A dead leaf spins violently in the wind, but the spider remains protected beneath the miniature canopy. But the mountain goat is approaching the point where every canopy fails. The conifers become shorter, their spacing widens. Individual trees stand isolated among limestone fragments until the forest ends almost at once. Above the tree line lies Banff's Alpine ecoregion, covering about 44% of the park. A world of low vegetation, exposed scree, and wind without interruption. The mountain goat steps beyond the last trees. Now the goat enters a place where survival must depend on the stone beneath each step. The broken staircase, where ice builds an unstable road. The last trees fall behind, and the mountain goat leaves the shelter of the forest wall. The goat tests a tilted slab before shifting its weight. Its split toes spread independently, while soft inner pads press into irregularities too small to support most large mammals. Mountain goats can negotiate slopes exceeding 60 degrees, but specialized hooves cannot make loose stone secure. A slight adjustment of one hind leg releases a stream of gravel that rattles down slope. A Clark's nutcracker watches from the last bare branch near the tree line. Its long bill is built for extracting conifer seeds, many of which it hides in scattered ground caches. Beyond the final tree, a dusky grouse remains pressed beneath low vegetation between the boulders. Higher still, a white-tailed ptarmigan walks across pale shale, searching among wind-blown fragments. The smallest grouse in North America, it remains above the tree line year-round, relying on camouflage and low alpine plants rather than forest cover. Beneath them, an American pika emerges from a crevice with vegetation across its jaws. It is a lagomorph, a relative of rabbits and hares, and it does not hibernate. Instead, it stores plants in hay piles within the insulated talus. A hoary marmot watches from a nearby boulder. Its sharp alarm whistle can carry across the slope before it drops among the rocks. Unlike the pika, the marmot survives winter through prolonged hibernation underground. The mountain goat moves again. Its hoof settles onto a mat of mountain avens. Leaves collapse, a stem splits, and clear sap gathers in the compressed soil. When the hoof rises, springtails enter the damp fissures, and a ground beetle crosses the crushed vegetation. To the goat, it was one measured step. To the life beneath it, the staircase has been rebuilt. Above, Victoria Glacier continues supplying water and debris. Ahead, loose scree narrows into exposed rock, where the next footholds will be smaller, steeper, and farther apart. The vertical wall, where the mountain removes every margin for error. The final stones of the broken staircase slide away beneath the mountain goat. It reaches the first ledge and stops. There is enough space for 4 hooves, but not enough to turn carelessly. The animal places its 4 feet first, then draws the hindquarters upward until its body stands almost parallel to the cliff. On the steepest sections, the dew claws behind the main hooves can add another point of contact with the rock. The goat advances. A thin slab shifts beneath one hind foot. It freezes, holding its weight over the remaining points of contact while the fragment drops away. The sound strikes the screen far below several seconds later. The terrain limits wolves, cougars, and bears, but the refuge itself can be lethal. Across mountain goat country, falling rock, avalanches, and gravity may claim more animals than predators do. Another goat enters the route behind it. Then a third. The white animals move in a loose line along the cliff, but their similarity conceals important differences. Males are generally heavier, yet size alone is unreliable. In a group of females, juveniles, and young animals, an older female may be the largest individual present. From the valley, they appear almost identical. white shapes fixed against grey stone. Only their movements reveal the route. One stretches forward to reach a shallow shelf. Another lowers its body before turning on a ledge barely wider than its stance. The last animal waits until the one ahead has cleared the next section. No leader directs them. Each must solve the same wall independently. Below, a bighorn sheep walks upward across a broader incline of grass and broken shale. The mountain goat above has fewer options. Its world has narrowed to a sequence of isolated edges. The distinction matters. Mountain goats are the only North American representatives of the Rupicaprini, a group sometimes called the rock goats. Their extreme habitat has also made them one of the continent's least studied large mammals. The solitary goat continues. Its muzzle lowers toward a patch of lichen growing directly on the ledge. It tears at the dry growth and begins to chew. For an animal so specialized in where it lives, the mountain goat is surprisingly flexible in what it eats. On this wall, that flexibility is essential. There is no meadow beneath its feet. Food survives only where moisture and organic material collect in cracks. A few centimeters of lichen may be the only meal available without leaving the protection of the cliff. The wind begins to change. Across the face of Mount Temple, a dark cloud meets the vertical rock and tears into pale streamers. Mist slips into fractures and layered bedding planes, briefly revealing the geology before hiding it again. The goat lifts its head as the first gust reaches the ledge. A goat brushes past purple mountain saxifrage, rooted in a cliff fissure. A strand of white wool catches on the plant and remains behind as the animal moves on. The hair is no longer a trace of a large mammal. It is a suspended structure stretching between flower and stone. A tiny thrip crawls around its surface, following the scales of keratin, as though moving along the bark of a fallen tree. Beside it, an alpine jumping spider waits within the purple bloom, its pedipalps twitching as movement passes overhead. The vertical wall continues, even at this scale. The goat depends on shelves measured in centimeters. The spider depends on pits measured in fractions of a millimeter. Both occupy the same cliff, but each reads a different map. A shadow passes across the saxifrage. A golden eagle glides along the wall, turning gently toward a recessed ledge. Rather than descending to a single permanent structure, a breeding pair may maintain several alternate nests within the same territory. They may return to one nest repeatedly, enlarging it over successive seasons, then shift to another site along the cliff. The eagle angles toward one of these hidden platforms. For the mountain goat, the wall must be crossed point by point. For the eagle, the same cliff is a line of nesting sites, air routes, and elevated observation posts. The herd reaches a narrow rock spine. One by one, the goats move along it until a fracture divides the solitary animal from those ahead. The crack is not wide, but there is no foothold inside it. The goat approaches, pauses, then turns slightly to align its body with the opposite edge. Its legs compress. It springs. The herd continues. Below, the bighorn sheep fades into the shale. The forest has become a dark band around the basin, and Lake Louise disappears behind clouds. Even the golden eagle is now only a moving shape near the cliff. The goat has reached a place where the wall offers almost nothing. Little food, no concealment, and no forgiveness for error. The vertical wall has carried the goats beyond the reach of the forest and above the unstable scree. Now only the crown remains. The crown, where the last light stops. The climb is over. As twilight settles across the lower slopes, a grey wolf raises its muzzle into the cooling wind. Farther down, an elk continues chewing while watching the pack move across a shadowed ridge. A snowshoe hare presses motionless against a grey boulder until the darkness nearly erases its outline. Above them, the mountain goats are still moving. An elk herd rests in the blurred valley foreground, while the goats appear as small white points against the sheer cliffs. One solitary animal exhales, and its warm breath becomes a dense cloud in the freezing air. Then the herd crosses the final ridge. Hooves strike stone for only a few more seconds before every animal disappears onto the summit plateau. One goat remains behind. It follows the knife-edge crest, pauses to look into the dark valley, and takes one final, deliberate step onto the highest ground. The cold is closing around the mountain at the same time. Freezing fog sinks directly into the blue crevasses of Victoria Glacier. At its snout, a thin meltwater stream slows over dark rock as surface ice begins to form. Heavy clouds move down the glacier corridor, extinguishing the remaining ambient light, while ground fog drifts across the moraine below. The change continues at a smaller scale. Ice crystals spread over a jagged limestone fragment. Inside the talus, a pica's dense undercoat lifts around its body beside stored plant fibers. On another rock, a pale, wingless ice crawler moves across moss campion, active in temperatures that have already slowed much of the surrounding insect life. The solitary goat walks toward the precipice. It reaches the edge and becomes still. A bighorn sheep rests far below, blurred against the dark valley. Above it, the goat remains silhouetted against the dying orange sky. The last light catches its white coat. Then the crown belongs to wind, stone, and cold. The vertical citadel, Rocky Mountain peaks. As the ambient temperature peaks, the immediate threat shifts from gravity to thermodynamics. Despite the freezing altitudes, an active grizzly bear or mountain lion risks fatal hypothermia on exposed rock. Survival requires a complete behavioral shutdown. Notice the respiratory changes. Breathing becomes shallow, and movement ceases entirely. For the next 3 hours, the ecosystem enters a state of mandatory stagnation. These anatomical adaptations allow survival on vertical granite during the harsh summer months. But when winter buries these peaks in 10 feet of snow, the biological requirements completely change. To understand how massive ungulates survive sub-zero blizzards, we must examine the geothermal basins of Yellowstone. Click here to analyze the mechanics of deep winter survival.